We're going over every JoJo villain to see what their motivations truly were. There's been a lot that's been made up over time in the community, and I'm going to try my best to just stick with the facts here. Brando's goals in Phantom Blood are one of ambition and spite. His experiences go from a rough journey of self-realization to complete corruption. Born into a life of poverty and abuse, Dio's father Dario serves as his initial antagonist in his life story, and that leads up to Dio issuing a slow and poisonous retribution. After Dario's demise, Dio falls gracefully into this opportunistic world of the Joestar family. He acknowledged their high standard of living and wanted the Joestar family fortune for himself. Dio dedicated his life to outdoing Jonathan in every facet while also making him look worse to everyone. Alongside that, once given the opportunity, he began poisoning George Joestar the way that he had done to his dad. But once the Joestars had discovered his plan, he had to pivot. Discovering the power of the Stone Mask, Dio's motivations transcend mere financial gain now, evolving into a dark craving for absolute domination and immortality. He kept trying to maintain a gap between him and Jonathan because he genuinely thought that he should have it over him. But his goal of being over the Joestars wasn't enough. He had to make sure that he was the one over the entire world. Cars in Battle Tendency is defined by his scientific brilliance and relentless ambition. Now, initially, his journey begins with this noble pursuit to elevate the Pillarmen, seeking to eradicate their fatal vulnerability to sunlight. Now, as a scientist and leader, Cars is dedicated to transcending the natural limitations of his race, driven by a vision of empowerment and evolution. However, this vision is not met with unanimous support. Actually, everyone disagrees. So he faces resistance and antagonism from his own kind, and Cars' motivations undergo a transformative shift. Also, so it isn't misconstrued, Cars could seem as a misunderstood person, but realistically he was experimenting on his fellow Pillarmen, so that was a huge reason why he was faced with backlash. So what was once a communal endeavor becomes a solitary quest with AC/DC and the following other two Pillarmen, as Cars prioritizes the survival and ascension of himself and his loyal followers over the collective well-being of the Pillarmen. His obsession with acquiring the Redstone of Asia embodies this shift in focus. Cars becomes single-minded in his pursuit, showcasing his ingenious capabilities and resourcefulness, yet revealing a skewed moral compass, willing to sacrifice anything or anyone in the name of power. In achieving his ultimate form, Cars attains the power that he sought, but at the cost of everything that was considered his humanity and connections. He becomes this tragic figure, isolated by his dream and unintended consequences of his relentless pursuit of greatness. His tale serves as a sad story on the duality of ambition, illustrating both its potential for innovation and its capacity for sheer destruction. Now, Dio in Stardust Crusaders is a reimagined incarnation of his former self, Brando, now marked with a more profound animosity. Resurrected with a single-minded vendetta against the Joestar lineage, his motivations have transcended this personal revenge and aim at complete and utter domination once again. I could embellish a little bit more and potentially mention his character in Stone Ocean, but that really wasn't established here. I could have mentioned that he's willing to use mind control now, but he's been doing that since Jack the Ripper. And his interest for a more insidious type of domination also still existed back in even Battle Tendency, where a zombie of Dio had gotten into a military. Without the addition of his character in Stone Ocean, he's realistically the same character. Not much has changed. Now, Yoshikage Kira in Diamond is Unbreakable gives us a complex villain that's different from his predecessors here in JoJo. His motivations come from a twisted sense of satisfaction and a desire for a peaceful life, untouched by the complications of societal expectations or moral obligations. Now, from a young age, Kira exhibits violent tendencies, driven by an inexplicable urge to kill and collect the hands of his victims. But despite his violent tendencies, Kira's ultimate goal is to lead a quiet, undisturbed life here in Morio. He goes great lengths to conceal his true nature, crafting an exterior of normality and blending into society. His interactions with the citizens of Morio are calculated, ensuring that he remains unnoticed and unchallenged. But, as his murderous impulses become harder to control, Kira's motivations evolve. Then, the arrival of the Joestar group and their relentless pursuit force Kira to confront his nature and the unsustainable nature of his desires. His motivations shift from trying to comfortably indulge in his dark desires here and there to an urgent need to protect his identity from danger. In Golden Wind, Diavolo stands out as a villain driven by a singular overriding obsession, which is to erase any trace of his past and guard his identity with fierce determination. Now, from his early years, Diavolo is determined to shape his destiny, unwilling to be just a mere pawn in the game of life. He wants to stand above all. He wants to be the king. His stand, King Crimson, manifests this desire, granting him the ability to manipulate time, ensuring that events play out in his favor. Now, as Diavolo climbs the ranks to become the boss of Passione, he becomes obsessed with concealing his true identity, ruthlessly eliminating anyone who threatens his anonymity and his person. His leadership style is autocratic, demanding absolute loyalty and obedience from all of his subordinates, and he uses fear and manipulation to maintain this control. Now, however, beneath his exterior of power and confidence lies a deep-seated fear of vulnerability and a belief that his survival hinges on his ability to remain unseen. Diavolo's motivations take a dramatic turn when he discovers the stand arrow, seeing it in its potential to attain an unimaginable power and secure his position at the top of the hierarchy. Yet, his quest for power ultimately proves to be his downfall, as his relentless pursuit of control and dominance blinds him to the true nature of the power that he seeks. His comeuppance wasn't exactly his identity being discovered, but more so the circumstances he created by trying to protect himself. Enrico Pucci, the antagonist of Stone Ocean, is a man of conviction, driven by a complicated web of personal tragedy, religious belief, and a loyalty to Dio. Now, his journey begins with a search for meaning and answers, following what he thought was the loss of his twin brother, and then the tragic death of his sister Perla, leading him to priesthood and eventually to Dio. Now, under Dio's influence, Pucci embraces a philosophy that believes events are predetermined and inevitable, leading to a fatalistic worldview, believing in the absolute power of fate and gravity to dictate the course of life. He becomes convinced that the only way to achieve true happiness and peace is by embracing one's destiny, a belief that drives him to use his stand, made in heaven, to accelerate the universe's progression towards this state of enlightenment. Now, despite the extreme and often violent measures Pucci is willing to take to achieve his vision, he remains indifferent to worldly desires such as power or wealth. His motivations are rooted in a twisted sense of divine justice, and loyalty to Dio's grand vision of heaven. Now, as his plans near fruition, Pucci's character transforms, becoming more expressive and assured in his beliefs, even as the consequences of his actions become increasingly dire. And then he loses, but Now we've gotten to Steel Ball Run. Funny Valentine's journey is defined by a strong love for his country, a willingness to make sacrifices, and an unyielding pursuit of power and control. His deep-rooted patriotism is ignited at a young age when he learns about his father's unwavering commitment to protecting his country, even in the face of brutal torture and death. This early experience, coupled with the symbolic gift of a handkerchief sewn with his birth date, instills in Valentine a sense of duty and belief in putting one's country above all else. Valentine uses his political power to secretly orchestrate the Steel Ball Run race in order to acquire the corpse parts as the 23rd president. This showcases his belief in sacrifice and utilitarianism to achieve national greatness. He is willing to put his life on the line and sacrifice others to pursue what he believes to be the greater good of the United States. His actions reflect the conviction that the ends justify the means and that personal and moral sacrifices are necessary for national prosperity. He has a distorted sense of duty, influenced by his past mainly, and his position of power. His actions, driven by the desire to ensure America's supremacy, reveals a readiness to compromise ethics and exploit others, all in the name, again, of national prosperity. And finally, we have Toru, a mysterious and adaptive antagonist with motivations rooted in survival, power, and manipulation. Now, Toru's journey is characterized by his ability to adapt and survive. His come up is just like any other rock humans, but the thing about what he wanted was what got him over the rest of them. A massive thing for Toru is that memories and dreams aren't fleeting. They are the enduring essence of life that outlasts physical existence. This gives him a unique appreciation for the power of legacy, and how actions resonate through time. Toru's goal is to have a power over all powers, which would be the Lokakaka fruit. So where does his control of the Lokakaka connect to his perspective on memories and dreams? Well, by controlling the fruit, he controls the story, you know? His actions reflect the desire to be the author of not only his fate, but also the fate of others, inserting himself as the rock upon which others' dreams and memories are built and or dashed. It's this sort of godlike aspiration to be a witness and shaper of lives across the passage of time. But I don't think it stops there. It looks that it was to be just something as simple as a power that would be of all powers, and because, you know, it's a thing that even all people of all types of people, like the billionaires and all that, would need, because, you know, it's the Lokakaka, it's equivalent exchange, it's powerful. But I don't know. Toru is a character that I still feel like I have to look a bit more into, but this is what I got from his character. While he's definitely direct, or at least relatively direct in his words, I do feel like there are intentions to look behind it all that would further describe what he is and who he is. But that's just me.